Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. For years, advocates have been calling intimate partner violence an epidemic. And today, the province finally agreed. The Ford government throwing their support behind an opposition bill, Bill 173, which declares intimate partner violence an epidemic in Ontario. The NDP bill passed its second reading just this past evening. Patrick Swadden joins us live now from Queen's Park. And Patrick, walk us through how we got here and what this could mean for victims.
Well, Kelda, many say that this has been an incredibly long time coming. It was actually in 2015 that the murder of 3 women at the hands of a former partner led to an inquest. And that inquest produced dozens of recommendations to the province. And at the top of that list was declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic. But it was also grassroots advocacy from organizations and survivors of intimate partner violence themselves that got us here.
I am a 6-year survivor of intimate partner violence.
Ajwa Ayako spoke to CBC News just before the pandemic, telling her harrowing story of abuse at the hands of a former partner, including when he tried to strangle her.
Was only able to survive that journey through the supports of certain community organizations.
She's now a social service provider working for the same organizations like Shelter Movers that saved her life, and wishing more women had the help that she did.
The Government of Ontario shall recognize that intimate partner violence is an epidemic in Ontario. That's it. Full stop.
But the first step in solving a problem, recognizing there is one.
Doug Ford and his Conservative government has refused to declare this epidemic and to take action.
Joined by advocates and the families of victims, the opposition NDP tabling a bill declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic in the province. And shortly after,
indeed, the government and this caucus will be supporting the private member's bill that comes before the House later today.
This is a first step in calling it what it is. We cannot change what we refuse to name.
This advocate happy to see the bill garner support from all sides, but says it's been too long coming.
Intimate partner violence has been an epidemic in Ontario for a long time, and we've seen that proven with the way in which we've seen 94 municipalities across Ontario already make the declaration in their local areas.
Municipalities like Sault Ste. Marie, councillors unanimously declaring intimate partner violence an epidemic last fall after a 44-year-old man killed Angie Sweeney, a former partner, before injuring another woman and killing 3 children, then himself. Police confirmed he had previously been investigated for intimate partner violence. Toronto made the same move in the fall, Mayor Chow speaking passionately about what her mother went through when she was a child.
She was beaten, she had a crack in her skull, was bleeding.
Toronto's vote, also unanimous, but calls to declare intimate partner violence an epidemic aren't new. Carol Culleton, Anastasia Kuzik, and Natalie Warmerdam were murdered by their former partner in 2015. Their deaths led to an inquiry which last year gave 86 recommendations. The first, declare intimate partner violence an epidemic, but the province initially saying no.
Last year, so within 52 weeks from November 2022 to November 2023, there were 62 cases of femicide.
Femicides in Ontario are of great concern, the high level of femicides.
Amanda Dale with the Women's Human Rights Institute says the declaration of an epidemic is only as good as how the government follows through and should include mandates for different government ministries.
It could actually revolutionize how we approach things like healthcare.
Meaning things like better screening for traumatic brain injury in women who've been beaten.
Until the action matches the intention, then victims and survivors will still be in the same place where there is such a lack of resources that this had to be declared an epidemic.
Ayako says the biggest gap is funding, especially for organizations that help women get out of an abusive partner's home.
They do not have the money to move. They do not have the money to go somewhere else.
Now, Kelda Ayako also told me that we need education on this issue. We need to help people understand the telltale signs of an abusive or violent partner. Now, that bill goes before the Justice Committee now, and Marit Stiles released a statement right after it passed its second reading saying that they're going to keep up pressure on the government, that they want to see the government follow through and turn this bill into law. Kelda?
All right, thanks so much for that, Patrick. That's our Patrick Swadden live for us tonight. Still at Queen's Park, a new Ontario housing bill is aiming to speed up developments and get more student housing built. It's a sweeping omnibus bill that the government says will cut down on red tape. Lorenda Redekop has more.
Use it or lose it rules will be coming in for developers in hopes that building will start quickly following an approval. Universities are being encouraged to build more student housing. This new bill aligns universities with the province's colleges by exempting them from normal planning rules. The housing minister says this is not about turning cash-strapped institutions into developers.
No universities approached me and said that they want to get into the real estate business. They don't want to be condo developers. What they have said is because of the changes, the unilateral changes by the federal government, they have to build quickly more student housing. Every new dorm that we build is an apartment that becomes available in the community.
Developments near transit stations won't be required to have a minimum amount of parking spots. It'll be up to builders to decide. Plus, standardized designs for homes, whether houses or larger buildings, will be approved faster, an issue the province heard about from developers.
They will have a design approved in one community and move right next door to the next community and have to start the process all over again. So if we can do a bit more work on standardizing that.
Third-party appeals on developments will be limited, such as appeals by neighborhood and environmental groups.
It can add, 2 years to the process and cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Overall, this urban planner thinks building will be sped up by the changes. But he doesn't like one part, allowing developers to appeal a decision on an urban boundary expansion.
Sprawl is back on the table, and I think that's an absolutely that's a terrible decision, and it's probably the worst part of the new bill.
The recent budget showed only once the government changed the definition of new housing, adding in long-term care beds, did it come close to meeting its target for building. Opposition parties say the bill doesn't do enough, given the need for housing. They wanted fourplexes permitted province-wide and more homes that are affordable.
And this legislation has failed again to show the ambition, the boldness, and the urgency which this moment really truly requires.
All we have are a few tepid, unambitious ideas that scrape the surface of the massive and substantial change that needs to happen in order to get to the bottom of this crisis.
Another change with this bill involves the controversial Minister's Zoning Orders, or MZOs. They allow for developments to be fast-tracked. The housing minister says he's making them more transparent. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Some of the biggest supermarket and retail chains in this country want changes to Ontario's Blue Box program. They say red tape in the system is costing them millions of dollars, and they're lobbying the Ford government to amend the rules. CBC senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has this exclusive story.
Who pays for Blue Box collection in this province is changing. By 2026, the companies whose products come in all that packaging will have to cover all the costs of recycling it. This transition began last year. And now the industry is facing sharp jumps in its fees, so they're pushing the province to change the system.
Grocery stores that have been sending us home with tons of garbage packaging for decades, and now that they're the ones who are financially responsible for collecting and managing the waste, they have issues with how expensive it is.
One of the organizations behind this push is called Circular Materials. Its board includes executives from the biggest supermarket chains and food producers in Canada.
The challenge or the concern from producers now is, okay, we're moving towards that system, we're paying our fair share, but we're still, we're seeing excessive costs, and we think that there's a more efficient way to do it.
The industry calls Ontario's recycling regulations the biggest source of red tape in this country.
What we're saying is we think we could save $100 million. There's a lot of duplication in the system.
The big chains also say those costs can be cut without reducing how much blue box material gets recycled in Ontario.
Yeah, that's probably a little bit cheaper.
Environmental groups just aren't buying it.
Ultimately, if producers are not paying for this packaging, it's going to be taxpayers, it's going to be the environment, or it's going to be human health. And that would be a massive step backwards.
The changes that Circular Materials wants would give it a monopoly on managing the recycling system across Ontario. That doesn't sit well with the hundreds of independent grocery stores in this province.
We have good reasons for raising a red flag about when we hear somebody talking about efficiencies and having everything in the hands of one company.
A spokesperson for the Environment Minister says the government is open to feedback from the industry and is not ruling out making the changes that the big retailers want. Mike Crawley, CBC.
Welcome back. There's been a sharp drop in the number of pharmacies being robbed for narcotics. Just over a year ago, Toronto police were concerned with a surge in these thefts, often carried out by armed criminals. As Greg Ross tells us, the decrease can largely be attributed to one change.
If you filled a prescription in the past year, you may have heard this sound. Pharmacies now store prescription drugs in safes like this with a time delay locking mechanism.
These locks can be set anywhere from like 5 to 30-minute delay. So I think the college has mandated a 5-minute minimum.
Eddie Petrov, who owns Cabbagetown Pharmacy, says in order to open his safe to access prescription drugs, he must first punch in a code, wait a designated period of time, and then punch that code in again before it opens.
It's just a deterrence against quick snatch and grab robberies.
It was just a year ago that pharmacies in the GTA were being robbed at a record pace. The thieves often brandished weapons, putting the safety of pharmacy staff and customers at risk.
I think at the peak we were receiving like 3 to 5 alerts a day.
Toronto Police, the Ontario College of Pharmacists, and the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police started working together to solve this problem. They implemented a plan to make it mandatory for pharmacies across the province to use time delay safes to store drugs.
Those who target pharmacies rely on speed to enter, to acquire stored narcotics, and exit quickly.
They say in just a year, it's had a huge impact.
Year-to-date pharmacy robberies are down 82% compared to the same period in 2023.
There are close to 5,000 pharmacies in Ontario. According to the Ontario College of Pharmacies, all of them have now installed time-delayed safes. In addition to time-delayed safes, all pharmacies are required to post signs like this one in their stores.
You have to have one in the dispensary, so we've just placed one directly on the safe to make it absolutely clear, and then you have to have a bigger version of this one out by the front door.
Police also recommend that pharmacies install good quality surveillance cameras and a panic alarm. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Muslims across the GTA are celebrating Eid AlFitr, marking the end of Ramadan and a month of fasting. Dale Manukduk spent the day in Mississauga to see how the Muslim community there is celebrating.
After 30 days of fasting and charity, hundreds gathered at the Islamic Community Center of Ontario in Mississauga for morning prayers.
It's a highly charged month, and the culmination and the celebration of passing this test of the month of Ramadan comes on the day of Eid AlFitr.
Now that morning prayers are over, the real celebration begins. We are here at Haroon Khan's home, where it's an open house to the public. It's been going on for 47 years, a tradition started by his mother.
We used to do that when we were in Pakistan. She always used to get family, friends together when she was there. And when she came here, our friends, like my friends, my brother, sister, friends, they used to come and to pay respect on this holy day.
Upwards of 600 people come throughout the day. All of the food is homemade, including the desserts made by Haroon's daughter and the main course made by his brother.
It cooked for 4, 5, 6 hours, and then it becomes very tender.
and that's what you eat with the naan.
Community members joined, as did first responders and politicians.
Every year if I'm in town, it is the place to gather in Mississauga to celebrate Eid.
If a private home isn't your thing, maybe this popular food plaza is. There's a lot of people coming by showing off their fresh Eid outfits and, of course, bringing business back to these restaurants. Lift it up. We got the Comme des Garçons going.
Yeah.
You've been holding on to this outfit for a while?
Oh yeah. I had this, I would say, like 20 days ago. Because last Eid I made a mistake of ordering late, so I didn't have no fit.
We just got the calm fit today with the all black. Usually it's definitely better to wear white, but today we had to switch it up a little bit.
The Potato Bar on Ridgeway Drive was happy to see daytime customers file in.
To be honest with you, we thought that we should open a little later because, the praying and everything. But right off the bat, as soon as we open, people are coming in. So it seems like people are coming out to celebrate Eid with family and friends and come out and enjoying food. So far it's been great.
Parties will continue throughout the night.
We have
an open house too from 4 to 7 today. So you can come there.
So you can come there as well.
Dale Manukduk, CBC News, Mississauga.
Students and staff at the Toronto District School Board donning pink today, standing in solidarity against bullying and harassment of the queer community.
I never dreamed in my wildest dreams that this would happen, that kids would get to be who they want to be, whatever that is, however they conceive of themselves, that these bright young kids would get the opportunity to live a good life.
That's Adrienne Rosen, who was part of the Brunswick Four. 50 years ago, the group of lesbian women were dragged out of a Toronto bar by police after singing "I Enjoy Being a Dyke" on stage. Their detention igniting a national conversation on queer and lesbian discrimination in Canada. The group was invited to speak at the TDSB today in honor of the International Day of Pink. They are some of Scarborough's best and brightest, and today they were recognized for their achievements in their respective fields. 10 new stars were laid on the Scarborough Walk of Fame in a ceremony at Scarborough Town Centre. Shannon Martin spoke to the honorees.
Congratulations, how are you feeling?
Thank you. I'm honestly still reeling, still kind of overwhelmed with everything.
It's a bit overwhelming for sure.
I feel great. I think to be honored in your home, I think is, very, very special.
I'm feeling really good right now.
It's honestly just an honor to be featured amongst such accomplished folks.
Tell us about your organization. You were saying you started during the pandemic?
Yeah, we started early in the pandemic in 2020, and honestly, we just started with the notion of we should allow the youth to kind of dictate change amongst themselves. Instead of inviting them to program after program, instead we should just give them the tools to create the change amongst themselves, allow them to become leaders in their own communities.
I think the beautiful thing about Scarborough is that we're not only able to recognize our differences, but we're able to celebrate them.
Tell us a little bit about your organization and what you started.
So my organization is called Fem in STEM. We started it in 2018 with basically just the goal of introducing as many young girls as we could to the fields of STEM.
What does Scarborough mean to you?
Well, this is the roots for me, and I think coming from here means resilience, right? It means character to get out of here, to go out and try to impact the rest of the world.
It's an honor to be honored. There are so many unsung heroes in our community, people that have worked for years and have never been recognized. So, to get to this point, after 12 years of work, to be recognized, it means a lot.
It's really a 360 full circle sort of moment for us. We used to come here and, with not much in our pockets, but, there was always so much we could do, and it almost felt like an escape. And so to be here, to be back on these stomping grounds again for a whole different purpose, to be able to receive a star now, it's kind of surreal.
When young people are watching this today and they see you guys that grew up here, what are you hoping that they take away from seeing this moment?
That it's possible, that they can relate, that they can see two Scarborough boys that look just like them, they can relate to and know that it's possible. When I say Scar, you say Borough. Scar, Scar.
You You are looking at a live shot of Toronto, mostly cloudy tonight and sitting at 14 degrees. Colette Kennedy joins us now with a look at your forecast, which does contain quite a bit of rain. Today, though, Colette, was another beautiful day.
Yeah, that's right, Kelda. In cases like this, sometimes it is nice to just kind of sit back and reflect on the beautiful conditions we had today and the weather we experienced, as opposed to jumping right into the forecast. Yeah, especially when the forecast has a big change in it in terms of our weather conditions. So lots coming our way. It's going to be a soggy end to the week. So I don't mean the end of the week Friday. I mean starting for tomorrow, so Thursday and Friday. Windy as well. Those winds quite blustery. Tomorrow morning, not so bad, more into southwestern Ontario, but they'll be picking up as the day wears on towards the Golden Horseshoe. And even a little bit of a cool down on the thermometer, at least compared to where we were today. Now, we were well above seasonal today, so okay, that's to be expected. But here you go with those daytime highs. 18 not only in Toronto, but St. Catharines and towards Hamilton. And yeah, 21 towards Ottawa, 17 for Windsor. Lots of nice readings above seasonal. So here's what's coming. We've sort of been between these two systems. And today, although the breeze was maybe at times a little chillier, it was just a fantastic day. And that ridge of high pressure giving us a dry day as well. Lots just fair weather cloud. So the next playmaker is coming our way, and we'll see those bands of rain pushing in overnight tonight, moving towards Windsor, Sarnia, Chatham, Kent, later overnight tonight, but they're coming. And then by early morning, and I do expect this for the morning commute, we will have some of that wet weather into the GTA as well. And even towards the afternoon, yeah, we might get a bit of a break in the precipitation, but it really does come in these bands. And so it's going to rotate back in again. And that's why maybe the beginning of your afternoon commute could be dry and you could be finding things moving a little better, and then more wet weather to come in. And then with that wraparound, still wet on Friday, but look at this, as some colder air gets pulled in behind, there's even a chance of a few wet flurries showing up Friday night into Saturday. I wouldn't so much expect that for the city or closer to the lakeshore, but know that that potential is there. We're not out of the woods for that yet. So those winds getting stronger in southwestern Ontario, then stretching all along the north shore of Lake Ontario, and then sticking around for a couple of days. Rainfall amounts, there's still quite a range here, 30 to maybe 40 millimeters, but it does look like back towards, say, Goderich to Sarnia, Leamington, Chatham, Kent, you could be seeing the more significant amounts there. Mild overnight tonight, at least with those overnight lows. Also mild as this overtakes the Golden Horseshoe. Then 14 for tomorrow. If I can leave you with a shot of good news, Kelda, it's that we'll rebound a bit towards this weekend.
I'll take that good news. Thanks so much, Colette. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6. I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.